Hi everybody, we are here in beautiful Austin at the Zoholics 23 event. Finally getting together again after this funny non-get-together time, or not so funny non-get-together time. And we are talking with Tejas. Tejas is in charge of evangelism, mainly of Ulaa. Now, the very first question is, what the heck is Ulaa?
So I'll start with what Ulaa means. So Ulaa is a Tamil word that means like journey or path. So basically it's kind of just, safari is meant to be like you're going on an explorer. In an explorer, it's always been about discovery. So Ulaa is a similar thing, but just Tamil is the language of where our headquarters is in India. Why build a browser? I think there really hasn't been a lot of, I would say, disruption in the browser market lately. A few have come and gone, Brave, Arc, maybe DuckDuckGo, but not a lot of real innovation, more like wrappers, if you will, with a little bit of customization. And so we really thought, one, a privacy-focused browser is important. There's other privacy-focused browsers on the market, but all of them have different quirks, I would say. So we're kind of taking our own spin at it. And then down the line, making it really a proper business browser is important to us as well, because there really hasn't been any kind of, I would say, business-focused browser. What does that mean? There's a couple options right now. It means a lot of extensions, a lot of deeper integrations between our web apps and our browser, offline capabilities, syncing, management, stuff like that, all while protecting privacy kind of being the core of everything for the browser.
So now, privacy protecting browsers, there are galore. Why an additional one?
Yeah, I mean, one is, at the end of the day, like the main browsers, we have, let's say, Edge, Chrome, and Safari, right? So those are market dominant. Then we have our niche ones that are maybe privacy focused. I'll use DuckDuckGo and Brave as an example. Both at the end of the day, DuckDuckGo and Brave have to make money. So how do they make money? They're all going to sell ads. Now you can sell privacy friendly ads at a certain point. If you want to make real money, privacy friendly ads is not the business of you. It's really, you got to get some kind of user data out of it. However you anonymize it, do something. Today the conflict might not be there. Tomorrow, next year, whatever, they'll hold on as long as they can. But eventually, to really make good money in a browser, you have to serve ads because you need to collect as much data humanly possible from that interface. For us, it's a little bit different because we're not trying to make money in the browser. We make money from our business apps. This is just a side thing that is an added service that we get. Anyone that knows Zoho is we're all about kind of value. We offer a bunch of different products at a very affordable price for compared to others in the market. And this is just another tool that we offered that is meant to increase people's productivity and also kind of protect their privacy as well.
So what's the business impact or the business purpose of an own browser for Zoho as well as for businesses in the context of the browser being a front end to business applications, all sorts of business applications these days?
Yeah, I would say there really is no business model for our browser. So we really just kind of want to make it free and available for everybody, offer a good service of privacy protection, and then eventually we'll incorporate a lot more business capabilities to actually make people's business work a lot more productive. We have something called modes in the browser, which lets you separate personal work from your job work, and then there's like a developer mode and a kids mode, so all these different versions that have different capabilities and quirks that really increase productivity because you're able to separate things that you normally aren't able to do in a browser.
Now, out of curiosity from my time, I'm using the beta version for quite some time now. How long did it take you to build that? On what foundation is it built? Well, it's built on Chromium apparently, but how long did it take you to get out, well, whatever's Google and shouldn't be in there?
Yeah, it is not easy at all. I want to say we started work, probably talks about it, maybe started around 4 or 5 years ago, and actual development was probably around 4-ish years ago. I think internally we got our hands on the first version probably around like 2-ish years ago. But de-Googling Chromium, so for those that don't know, like there's Chrome browser that everybody has access to, there's Chromium, which is like the open source version that they kind of offer to the world as what people can build on top of, like what Edge is built on top of, what Brave is built on top of. But even in the base level Chromium, there's an insane amount of tracking that happens from DNS fetching and sharing that back to Google, to fingerprinting, to idle times, to device identifiers, by default ads that pop up. A lot of different attributes that are there. So we basically have to de-Google what should have been a de-Google version of Chromium in the first place, but they are obviously very smart people and they hide and incorporate a lot of things in Chromium that you have to go in. And so a lot of people I don't think we really understand the engineering effort that goes into de-Googling a browser. There's just so much hidden stuff because it is in their business model to hide as much, telemetry and tracking that they can inside the open source version. And so it takes a lot of effort. I mean, it's not easy. That's why there's not that many other competitors. If it was so easy to build on top of Chrome and make something good, you would see 100 browsers in the market. Right now, we see maybe 5, 6 legitimate ones.
Given that 4 or 5 year timeline that you have been developing this over, that makes you probably the first browser developed in a post-cookie, post-GDPR environment. How has that affected what the user experience will be?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, I mean, I talk a lot about privacy, and we do as a company as well. Some people want privacy, some people don't want privacy, or some people just don't care. I would say, yeah, you either don't care or you want it. Nobody really, wants to get surveilled, but beyond that. And so for us, we go with the approach of everything should be an option. We should give the consent, let people choose should they want to be tracked or not. So that's kind of where the modes come in. When you're in a work mode, we're not going to let social media sites track your work activity. When you're in personal mode, we won't let work sites track your social media activity. And so by default, we kind of silo all these off. If people want to enable options, they're always more than welcome to. We'll give them the consent options. But by default, we try to protect it, tell them exactly what we're blocking, how we're blocking it, why it's important that it's being blocked for you, and should you want to enable it, let it do. Ultimately, the choice is there. I think the entire advertising surveillance complex is all around hidden metrics that you're not given the choice to. If someone asked you, it's very innocent to say, do you want to share your location to find the nearest Starbucks? Yeah, that sounds great. What all is the implications of you sharing that location? You don't really know because nobody ever tells you.
Adding on to the privacy stuff, or privacy part, not stuff, in how far is there already enough of offering private data just by using a browser without a protected connection? I'm talking VPNs here basically. So, and Zoho has a lot of infrastructure, lots of POPs even.
Yeah.
So is there any plan of going that step as well, extending on what Apple, for example, did with their version of a VPN, private relay?
Yeah, it's definitely I would say I don't want to put the cart in front of the horse. It's something we're working on and looking forward to. Not available in the first version, but yeah, I think obviously that is the natural step of being able to really protect the full transportation of that data all the way across and masking it. So yeah, definitely a work in progress.
That would also be a use case for business, or especially for business then, right? Or people who need protection.
Yeah.
Want protection.
I mean, even if we just look at normal, typical enterprise company, how do they VPN into some work resources, right? They use some probably terrible client on their machine and then connect, and they probably get a slow connection or whatever. Here, if we can set up a more advanced way of connecting the browser directly, and especially just the work mode of your browser, so your personal information is not VPN back in, but just your work activity is. That's a big improvement from just a productivity. And speed of access, but then also I don't want my personal browsing to go through my work VPN, but everybody does the same stuff on the same machine. There's no reason there shouldn't be tunnels and more like a segregated way of that data.
And how far are you looking? It's more, if I put that on a scale, we have on the simple scale, on the simple side of the scale, we have private relay, and on the more complicated side, we have Tor-like things.
Yeah.
The onion router, for everybody who doesn't know it, which actually bounces your packets, the data that you send across, through a lot of in-between points.
I think generally we start pretty simple, and then we'll get more advanced as time goes on. One is, it's not easy to build these kinds of systems. It's one, pretty cost prohibitive to set up points of presence around the world, make sure that speed is important. The one most annoying thing about VPNs in general is speed, right? It'll just kill your connection. And so being able to optimize for that, making sure at least some kind of a point-to-point connection can happen, or some way to make it a better experience. That's a big focus of what we want. And after that, we'll get into more secure ways of getting into it. But if you can't get good performance, then people you'll lose them right away.
Performance is another thing to look at. How does fare Ulaa compare to especially the main browsers?
Yeah, I'd say Performance on Ulaa is great. Maybe a little biased, but it's definitely yeah. I mean, I've
No way.
experienced zero issues with it or whatever. But generally, I mean, the whole reason Chrome kind of took over the entire browser market was because it was so much better performance-wise than Internet Explorer. Firefox has always been there, kind of teeters between sometimes it's good and sometimes it's a little heavy. But even Chrome nowadays has gotten a lot more, just bogged down because of I don't know what they're doing back there. But generally, I'm just gonna speculate. Maybe the more bloat you kind of put in the software, the more stuff that's going on in there, it slows it down. So now, you can run Chrome instances and Ulaa instances side by side, and we generally either fare equal or better in almost every case in terms of performance, battery life, stuff like that.
Okay. Putting it on a slightly grander scale, now the demise of the third-party cookie in general, which prohibits targeted advertising basically, is basically attacking the foundation of the free internet, so the so-called free internet, because we are paying with something else than dollars. So, which to quite an extent affects marketing, marketers. They will need something else. What do you foresee there? What the reaction of marketing companies is that provide targeting services?
Yeah, I would say I kind of look at it a little differently. I think the rise of this entire data economy and how almost easy it's become to market people, it kind of put a crutch on maybe marketing quality because it was so easy and so cheap to basically reach exactly this demographic and this location and this business interest. And I think with more privacy protections in place, we'll kind of go back to maybe what's considered old school marketing. Maybe it might be more offline, maybe it's more personal, maybe it's more thought leadership, maybe it's better content, maybe generative stuff has something to do with it. But in general, the targeting world, it's kind of like whack-a-mole. We'll stop one targeting some way, and I'm sure some smart person's going to find another way to track you. It's just inevitable to happen. But as long as we can do what we can to kind of protect people, but I think it just goes back to the consent thing as well. You just don't know you're getting tracked. You have an idea of it, but you just don't know how much tracking is really going on, and that's kind of what scares people, and it's kind of just scary in general.
Okay.
You don't think of it until suddenly, surprise, we know exactly what you were looking at.
Yeah. Like your incognito mode.
Hell, you're looking for a new camera. Here is a great one that you, by the way, looked at shortly before. Well, I just bought it 2 hours ago, so too late for your head. What are next steps for Ulaa then?
Yeah, I mean, one, obviously, just getting good user adoption is great. Second, there's a lot of innovation to be had in the business market that I kind of mentioned earlier. So right now, generally an organization will install Chrome, or people install Chrome, or maybe Edge or something on their own machine, and they browse around. But there's no real organization controls of it. There are ways to control it through some management policies and stuff, but it's very bulky, very enterprisey, and just not accessible to mid-market small businesses and even a lot of enterprises. And so for us, some sort of management console for these instances. So a couple examples would be things like we could set work policies. So when you're in the work mode, you can't download files from websites that are not allowed. You can't visit certain web pages. Maybe we'll automatically do some smart things around grouping of tabs around projects and optimizations around work in general. And then for personal mode, you can kind of do whatever you want to. Maybe those downloads go into a different box, and we keep it very separated. I think the hard part is we try to use one browser for everything, work, personal, whatever, and it just muddies the water. And honestly, it's kind of a security nightmare. So being able to separate the two, make sure that if the work mode wants to be completely sandboxed, 0 downloads, nothing can touch it, we can do that kind of stuff too. So a lot of areas of innovation. There just hasn't really been anything around business-focused browser that unlocks management, productivity, and then privacy is kind of just icing on the cake in that situation.